Hello and welcome to this lesson on graphing the equation of a line from slope-intercept form. So the whole point of this lesson is to get a bunch of practice on how to graph a line that's in slope-intercept form, and even some lines that are not written in slope-intercept form. How do we graph those lines? Okay, so this is all about graphing. And so is the last lesson. The last one is all about graphing, but in that lesson, we made tables. We took the equation we had, we solved for slope-intercept form, we made a table coming up with our own x values and finding some y values, and it's kind of a lot of work just to graph a line. But that's a very good backup method that will always work. The method I'm going to show you here in this lesson will only work if the equation is in slope-intercept form. So that's going to be kind of like the little caveat here, is each equation must be slope-intercept form. Okay. Essential question says, how do I use slope-intercept form to graph the equation of a line? Did you know that linear equations and graphs are great ways to express something that moves or grows at a constant rate? Things like printing pages. If it prints at the same speed all the time. A chocolate factory making chocolate bars, they kind of work at the same speed. That's a constant rate. Or even a car with its cruise control on. Each of these cases, the rate or the speed of the machine is working. That speed is the slope of the line. Okay. The y-intercept would be the initial value, or the amount of the job that has already been done by the beginning of the problem. So kind of a small little example of that, like if you're traveling home and have already traveled 40 miles, and you're traveling home at 55 miles per hour, then this equation could be used to find out how long it would take you to go y miles. I mean, your speed times by how long you're driving, plus the 40 miles you've already traveled. Okay, that's an equation in slope-intercept form, and we're going to learn to graph something similar to that. One vocab word we have here, I think we've already had this once before, and we're going to see it definitely again in a couple more units. It's parallel lines. Two lines that are parallel have the same slope. Most people think of parallel lines as just two lines that are kind of going the same direction. I'm going to cheat here. See, they're parallel. So most people think of it like this, and a lot of students say, oh, they look like train tracks. Yes, they're going the same direction. But what makes them go the same direction is they have the same slope. So if I turn these lines, they're both going the same direction. The slopes of those lines are always the same. That's what makes them parallel, and that's how we're going to use this slope word later on in this lesson. So, first problem, and really there's only a couple different types of problems we're doing here. This is meant to be as a lesson just to practice graphing lines over and over and over. So if you got this and you know what you're doing, fly through this lesson really quickly, because that's really all it is. I'm not going to teach too much new skill if you know what you're doing already. So they want us to identify the slope and the y-intercept and then graph the equation. Okay, not too bad. We remember this formula is y equals mx plus b, where the m piece is our slope and the b piece is the y-intercept. So the slope here is negative 3 over 2, and the y-intercept is 3. Okay, this is my slope, this is my y-intercept. Now, to graph that line, the first thing we do is we put a dot where our line crosses the y-axis. We need a starting place. So I'm going to put a dot at 3 on the y-axis, right there. That is my first point. And that's always going to be our first point when we are writing, or when we're graphing an equation from slope-intercept form. We put a dot first on the y-axis. Then we move the way the slope tells us to move. Remember how this is like rise over run? Well, this rise over run is, let me write it down. My rise is down 3, because it's a negative 3. I'm going to go down 3 and then over 2. Run is always to the right. So from that first point, now I go down 3 over 2, down 3 over 2, and I put a dot. And then I'm going to repeat that same pattern the whole way across the graph. Down 3 over 2, down, I can't go down 3 over 2 anymore. I'm out of space. And I can't go up. If I could, I would go this way. Up 1, 2, up 3 over 2 doesn't quite work. So now I'm going to draw my line. And I'm going to extend my line the whole way across the graph. Your line should extend the whole way. You should not have a tiny little line, just a piece of a line in the middle. It should go from one edge of the graph to the other. And we're done. I've graphed this line. I put a dot where the y-intercept goes first. I then move the way the slope tells me to move. Down 3 over 2, down 3 over 2, and I would keep repeating that and then draw a line through the dots. That's it. Letter B, same deal. So my slope is the number in front of the variable. It's in front of the x, I should say. And my y-intercept is the constant. So in this case, my y-intercept is a -2. Yes, the negative comes along with it. It is a -2. My slope is the number in front of the x, which you don't see one. It's because it's a ghost 1. My slope is 1. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to put a dot on our y-axis at the y-intercept at -2. So here's the origin, down 1, down 2. That is -2 on the y-axis. That's my y-intercept. Now I want to move with a slope of 1. But typically, we need rise over run. So we need this 1 to be a fraction. So we put it over 1. Remember, you can always turn any whole number into a fraction by putting it over 1. And since my rise is positive, that means we're going to go up 1 and then over 1. Over is always to the right. So from that point, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, again and again, and I can go in reverse. Now that I have a good line drawn, I can see it's going to extend down this way. So I will. Boom, boom, boom. Line extends the whole way across the graph. There we go. And there's our line. I put a dot at the y-intercept as my first point. Then I moved the way the slope told me to move. The slope told me to go up 1 over 1, and I always go to the right. And we're done. All right, 2 for me, 1 for you. Go ahead and pause the video and try this one on your own right now. When you are ready to continue, hit play, and we will go through it together. All right, so our slope should be -1/4, and your y-intercept is -1. Those are those values. To graph that, I'm going to put a dot on my y-intercept of -1. So that's my y-intercept. And then I'm going to move the way the slope tells me to move. The slope tells me to go down 1 over 4. It's a negative, down 1 over 4. Oopsie. So from that point, I'm going to go down 1 over 1, 2, 3, 4. Should not have been a dot there. Come on. Down 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. Dot. That's my down 1 over 4. Now I can't go down 1 over 4 anymore this way. I can go the reverse though. I can see my line is looking like this. So if I go up 1 over 4 the wrong way, I'll have a dot right there. End line. The whole way across the graph, and we're done. So you see, this process is really quick. This is going to be hopefully a relatively quick lesson. Letter D. Okay, my slope is the number in front of the x, my intercept is the number after it, so my slope is definitely a 3, and my intercept is a 0. You don't see it, it's a 0. So I put a dot on my y-intercept right there, and I'm going to move the way the slope tells me to move, and my slope as a fraction would be 3 over 1. That means I'm going to go up 3 over 1. Up 3, 1, 2, 3 over 1 dot. And repeat, I can't go up 3 and over 1 more. It'd be about here. I mean, I can estimate. I could put a pretend dot. And I can see my line looks like this. So I can do the reverse to fill in some space down here. Down 3 over 1 the wrong way, and I mean, again, I can kind of estimate that. Lastly, we get ourselves a line. Boom, boom. So my line had a slope of 3, up 3 over 1, had a intercept of 0. It crossed the origin. Okay, I did one more, you do one more. Go ahead and pause the video and graph this one as efficiently as you can, so quick but correct as you can. All right, so your slope should be -4 from there. Your y-intercept should be +4 from there, which means your line is going to cross the y-axis at +4. And your slope as a fraction is -4 over 1, which means you're going to go down 4 over 1. 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1 dot, down 4 over 1 dot. I can't make any more, so I draw my line. Boom. Extend this way a little bit. Boom. Done. Okay, we've got another one here. This is letter F. See if you can graph this one as well. Pause the video, take a couple seconds, graph it as efficiently as you can, and hit play when you're ready to continue. All right, my slope is, your slope is 2. Our y-intercept is 0, so we're going to cross at the origin. So I put a dot at the y-intercept. I'm going to move the way the slope tells me to move, which is up 2 over 1. Dot. Up 2 over 1. That's because my slope as 2 is 2 over 1. And then I can move it in reverse down here, following the reverse pattern down 2 over 1 the wrong way, and I get this line here. And there we are. Your line should look exactly like my line. Your dot should go through the exact same points as my dot. There's no wiggle room here. All right, so that was all. What happens if I give you an equation in slope-intercept form? Now, what if I don't give you an equation in slope-intercept form? Well, you make it slope-intercept form. You make it y equals. In this case, I'm going to divide by 3 on both sides to make it y equals -2x plus 3. That's my -2x. That's my plus 3. If that's unfamiliar to you, check out some of the previous lessons on writing an equation in slope-intercept form. We've done this a couple times now. So now from here, I'm not going to write out my slope and my intercept like we were doing previously because we should have a handle on it. I know that's my slope. It's -2 over 1. I know that's my y-intercept. Oopsie. So I'm going to put a dot at 3. Boom. I'm going to move the way the slope tells me to move, which is down 2 over 1. Dot. Down 2 over 1. Dot. And repeat, and in reverse. So I have my line going the whole way across the graph. I draw my nice pretty line, arrowheads, and we're done. If that was fast for you, pause the video, go back, rewatch it, slow it down, pause it at each step if you need to. But it should hopefully be becoming fairly familiar to you now. We've done quite a few of these. But here's another one. So the first thing we need to do is we're going to solve this for y. We want to make this slope-intercept form. If you wanted to try this on your own first, I encourage you to pause the video right now and see if you can get it right. But here we go. I'm going to subtract 5x on both sides. Negative y equals negative 5x plus 5. This negative sign here is probably the #1 mistake students make, is they drop him. We need to keep it though, and we're going to divide by -1 to get rid of that negative sign. And we're going to get positive 5x minus 5. That is positive 5x. This is a negative 5. So there's my equation I'm going to graph. The only other thing I'll do here is make my slope a fraction. So now it's 5/1. So now when we graph this, we're going to put a dot on the y-axis of -5 right here. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, -5 is right there. And now I'm going to move the way the slope tells me to move. The slope tells me to go up 5/1. Remember, over is always to the right. So up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5/1. Dot. And again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5/1. Dot. And then finally, we just draw a line through the 3 points. And there is our line. All right. Solve for y to make it slope-intercept form. Put a dot at your y-intercept. Move the way the slope tells you to move in both directions if you need to fill the whole thing. Draw your line. Okay, one for you. Go ahead and make that slope-intercept form, graph your line, and then, so pause the video, do that stuff. When you're ready, continue, hit play, and we'll go through it together. All right, so you should have y equals 4x minus 8. Slope is 4/1. Your y-intercept is -8. So when we come back over to our graph, we're going to put a dot on the y-axis at -8. -1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is right there. And then I'm going to move the way the slope tells me to move. The slope tells me I'm going to go up 4, because it's positive, up 4/1. So 1, 2, 3, 4/1. 1, 2, 3, 4/1. And I can't do any more. I cannot go up 4 more and over 1. So I draw my line. One way and the other. And there we have it. Okay, another one for me here, letter D. So I'm going to start by solving for y first. They try to be tricky. Usually the x is on the left-hand side and the y is on the right. They switch it up. If I'm solving for y, I'm not going to subtract 2x on both sides. I'm going to get rid of this minus 3x. So I'm going to add 3x. 2y equals 3x plus 10. Now to get the y by itself, this is familiar. We're going to divide by 2 everywhere. Boom. And y equals 3/2x. Remember, this fraction does not divide, so we just leave it as a fraction. That's our slope fraction. Plus 5. This does divide. 10 divided by 2 is 5. All right? So there's my equation. I have my slope as a fraction. I have my intercept as 5. So let's do it. Y-intercept is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right there. My slope is a positive 3/2, which is going to be a problem for us because I need to go from here up 3/2. Now I can kind of estimate and go, okay, 1, 2, 3/2 is somewhere in this ballpark. Now, all that really allows me to do for now is I don't want to draw a line through this. This is not a very good estimation. But I can see my line should look like this. The number one mistake students make here is they figure, oh man, if I can't go up, I'm just going to go down 3/2 this way. But then they're going to have themselves a negative line. This is wrong. This line has a negative slope. It's going down. It should have a positive slope. It should be going up. So by putting in this little imaginary dot out here, we're at least getting the right kind of angle. We see it's going this way. Now, the correct line we're going to need is this one. So instead of going up 3/2, if we do the reverse of that, down 3/2 the wrong way, down 3/2 the wrong way. And that's the line we're going to get. And this idea of having the one point they give us being on the very edge of the graph does happen sometimes. And that's kind of the skill I wanted to highlight in this problem. So sometimes adding this little ghost dot out here is helpful for you to at least just see how the line moves. Is it going up or going down, sort of thing. All right, here's letter E for you. If you could go ahead and pause the video, try this one on your own, and then hit play and we'll go through it together. All right, so you subtract x on both sides to get the y by itself. And actually, that's done. The y is already by itself. There is one small thing that I would do, though, just to make my life a little bit easier. I would make sure I understand that my slope is a -1/1. So I'm just making my slope more clear. I mean, this was a negative x, but adding this in here, or if you want to make it in like little ghost mode, it's technically a -1/1. So now, y-intercept is -2, right there. Slope is -1/1. That means, because it's a negative slope, down 1/1. Down 1, -/1. Boom. And repeat, down 1/1, down 1/1. And now, since I've reached the edge of the graph, I go in reverse. Boom, 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 boom. Line. Now my line was a little bit off here. We could probably do a little better than that. There we go. And that is the line y equals -x - 2, or the line x plus y equals -2. Okay, here's another one for you. This is letter F. Go ahead and pause the video. Try this one. When you're ready to continue, hit play, and we'll go through it together. All right, let's see how you did. Did you start by subtracting 2x on both sides? If you did, awesome. You should have kept a -4y, and on the other side you have a -2x - 16. You then divided by -4, hopefully, on both sides, and you got y equals 1/2 x plus 4. The 1/2 comes from this, that is -2 divided by -4 is 1/2. And then the +4 came from that. -16 divided by -4 is +4. We now know that our slope is 1/2, our y-intercept is 4, so I go up 4 on the y-axis, boom, and then I move with a slope of 1/2, which means up 1/2. I can do that. It's right near the very edge, but I can at least get one dot. And now, since I can't go any more the way I want to go, I'm going to go in reverse. So, there. Down 1/2 the wrong way, down 1/2 the wrong way, and now my line is nice and pretty and perfect. Each point from one dot to the next, I go up 1/2, 1/2, 1/2, and that was our slope. So that's graphing from, actually this is called the standard form. We looked at those yesterday, or the previous video where we made the table, like we solved for y first, and then from here we'd make a table and then graph those points. Isn't this so much easier just going, oh, there's my y-intercept. Oh, move the way the slope tells me to move. So let's do a little bit of problem solving. What would the question mark in this problem need to be? So what would the question mark need to be in the equation below to have the slope of the line equal 3? So I want this equation, when I make this slope-intercept form, when I make it y equals mx plus b, I want the slope to be a 3. What would this need to be to make that happen? Well, let's think. If I wanted to make this slope-intercept form, what I would do is I would get the y by itself. So I would divide by 6 on both sides. And I would get y equals this thing x plus 2. Well, if I want this thing to be a 3, what number divided by 6 is 3? The answer is 18. 18 divided by 6 is 3. So if my question mark was 18 from the beginning of the problem, this line would have a slope of 3. And that's what we were hoping for. That wasn't too bad. A little bit of reasoning, a little bit of problem solving, a little bit of thinking ahead. What would be the equation of a line that is parallel to the given line? So parallel to this. That is parallel to the given line going through the point 2, -1. So I want the equation of a line that's parallel to this one, but goes through this point. How could we do this? Well, there's a couple different ways. One way is using technology. If you have something like an iPad to use, or if you're doing this online or something, you could, theoretically do this, or take a ruler and go, hey, I can just copy the line over here and then write the equation of that line. Those two lines are parallel. I can write the equation of my red line and be done with it. I don't think that's really what's intended, but we could. The other way is, we know this line has a slope of 3/2. And because they're parallel, parallel lines have the same slope. We looked at that in the vocabulary. So I could actually go, you know what, from here, I can go up 3/2. That's the slope, 3/2. Up 3/2, up 3/2, up 3/2. I'm estimating that one. And I can now do that in reverse. Down 3/2. Boom. Hey, yo, look at that. That's going to be our y-intercept. It's on the y-axis, which means I have all the information I need to write the equation of this line. I know the slope is going to be a 3/2 because it's parallel. Parallel lines have the same slope. And now I can see that it's going to cross the y-axis at -1, -2, -3, -4. So I've shown you two different methods so far. One using technology, one by drawing the line. You could have also done the same problem a third way. We knew the slope was 3/2. The only thing we really were missing from this problem from the beginning was the y-intercept. We didn't know, we didn't know the y-intercept when we had that to start with. But we could have taken this with the slope that we knew and the point that we know and plug in x value for x, y value for y. Do you remember doing that? We did a whole lesson of that. And we could have found b. This math, 3/2 times by 2 is 3. I subtract 3 on both sides, and b equals -4. Hey, would you look at that? That's the same y-intercept we found by graphing it and by moving the slope way and drawing the line. So no matter what method you choose, we still get the y-intercept is -4. Okay, lots of methods. You just have to pick one that works for you. That's kind of part of math that a lot of students don't understand. You have choices a lot of times to be creative in how you solve the problems. Number 3, here's one for you. What would be the equation of the line that goes through this given point and the origin? I want you to write that equation. So go ahead and pause the video, try this one on your own, and when you're ready to continue, hit play, and we'll go through it together. All right, so first thing I would probably do is draw the other point, maybe even draw the line. I mean, I have technology to help me out. That line wasn't that terribly pretty. That one's a little bit better. I would use that line, or even without the line, I can figure out what the slope of the line is, because from one point to the next, I'm going down 3 over 4. My slope is rise over run. Slope is down 3 over 4. So I know my equation is negative 3/4 x something. That's my slope. Now my y-intercept is where the line crosses the y-axis. And if I draw my line in again, my line is crossing the y-axis at the origin, which is 0. We don't have to write plus 0. We would probably just leave it like that. But understand that that's why we're not putting a thing here, is because it is just a plus 0. It is, our y-intercept is 0. Last question, multiple choice. Says, which 2 equations below are equations for the line shown? 2 of these are. I want you to actually try this problem. I want you to pause it. I want you to try it. And then when you're ready to continue, hit play, and we'll go through it together. Pick 2. All right. Things I would do. I would take each of these equations and I would solve them all for y. I would make them all slope-intercept form. And I would see if I can eliminate choices based off that. So like for right now, I can actually eliminate choice A. It does have the correct y-intercept of 1. It does have the wrong slope. This slope of negative 4 over 1 means from that y-intercept, I'm going to go down 4 over 1. 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1. No, my line's not doing this. I can see that right away. So it is not letter A. So let's take letter B. I want to solve this thing for y quick. So I'm going to subtract 2x on both sides. I'm going to get 8y equals negative 2x plus 8. I just kind of moved the equation over because I didn't have space to work it. Divide by 8, divide by 8. Y equals negative 1/4 x plus 1. All right, let's see if that one works. Does this line have the correct y-intercept? It does. Does this line have the correct slope from one point to the next? And it may help if you add in this point here. Is that slope down 1 over 4? Yes, down 1 over 4. So letter B is one of the correct answers. Now the question said which 2 equations, so there's another one. Okay, let's check letter C. The equation is y equals negative 1/4 x plus 1. Well, yes, that's going to work as well because that's the exact same equation as we just got for letter B. Negative 1/4 x plus 1, negative 1/4 x plus 1. We know that one works. Now, for completeness sake, I'm going to solve letter D. If you add 4x to both sides, you get y equals 4x minus 4. That one is very, very wrong. The y-intercept is negative 4, which would be down here. And the slope is a positive 4, which means I'd go up 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, over 1. This line for letter D would look like this, which is not at all what we want. So it is not letter D. It is definitely letters B and C. Summary. Each linear equation we learned about is made of two parts. What are these two parts? What are the two parts of an equation that we learned about that we use to graph a line? And I'm intentionally not saying the name of the thing because it kind of gives it away. Hint, hint. Pause the video, think about it. When you're ready to continue, hit play. If you said the slope and the intercept, you are absolutely right. The slope and, be more specific, it is the y-intercept. There is such a thing as an x-intercept, we just don't really use it. So it's the slope and the y-intercept. So it's kind of like that equation. Y equals mx plus b. That's my m piece, and that's my b piece. So you need the slope and the y-intercept. So hopefully you now have a very good hold on how to graph lines from slope-intercept form, how to write equations of lines, how to find slope, how to find y-intercept, because this is kind of it for this unit. This is the end of this one. We will be doing much more of these same skills over the next few units, so please make sure you got it before moving on. All right. So thank you so much for watching the lesson, and until next time, toodles.